Now, player promises is always something that I kind of make a lot of mistakes with in Football Manager, and in FM22, I'm trying to stop myself from doing that. As you can see, this is my PSV Eindhoven save. I currently have 3 promises on the go. Finding a low move for a player. If I don't do that, he's going to kick up a bit of a fuss. If he's an influential player, some more influential players will start having a go at me. Team cohesion goes down. My team starts playing terrible. Following that, Marco here has fair increase in playing time. I have promised him playing time, and we're kind of going with that now. I've been playing him, and he has been playing quite well. He's pleased with the playing time he's currently getting. I'm en route to completing that promise. But player promises come up everywhere, and this is where you really need to be careful, because for instance, when you're trying to sign a player, you might be just so excited that whatever transfer bid you have offered was accepted that you actually shoot yourself in the foot, because you offer them, maybe you offer them a promise to play them in a certain position or a role that you don't even play in your tactic. For instance, some players, they want to play specifically on that right hand side as a winger, and yet you are using inside forwards, and if you don't play them in a winger, they're going to be kicking off about it. And I have many other mistakes that can be made in Football Manager that I want you guys to be aware of and to avoid, so stick with me. We're going to roll through a couple more. But just before we move on, the player promises, so that you know where to look for them if you have made them on your homepage, is at the top under promises. And for instance, every single time you go into offering a player a new contract, you can have the ability to remove those player promises. A lot of the times they will give you the option, you can remove and exclude them, and they will just forget about them and still want to negotiate contracts. On the very rare occasion, they will get annoyed with you and you won't be able to actually continuously go through with that contract offer, and they'll just refuse to speak to you after that. But then maybe they're a bit of a troublemaker. Other thing as well is game time. We've seen there, Marco, he wanted increased playing time. He obviously has in his contract that he is going to be an important player or a first team player. We can see here his actual playing time right now is a regular starter, but his agreed playing time is an important player. I didn't make the signing. Whoever did beforehand agreed in his contract that he would be an important player in my team. I didn't see him as a good enough player to be that important player, and that's when he came to me and was a bit unhappy with his situation. So taking these out during contract negotiations, or, you know, for anything else like that, it just takes 2 seconds, but it can make the world of good for your team cohesion, which, by the way, you can find in the dynamics page on overview. Team cohesion right now I have is good. This is my Twitch save, by the way, twitch.tv/MegaLukeGaming. The club atmosphere is excellent, and my managerial support is very good. Doesn't happen to me very often, so let's just celebrate this while we can. Now, the next mistake that people seem to make, and sometimes I make it, I don't think I'm really a bad one for this, but that's tactic tinkering during the games. Now, we're going to speak more about tactics later on, because there's, I think, a bigger mistake that people make during tactics that I've rectified myself recently. But tactic tinkering during a game, I think, is so important. Whether you go 1-0 down very early on and you think I need to change something drastically, that can be a mistake. Sometimes your tactical familiarity, it's good enough that you will go down a goal every now and then. Even if you are Man City or PSG, you might concede first in a game. Don't go change around your tactics immediately, because that's when things could go wrong. Let things play out. Maybe at halftime, check the statistics. Are you in the game? Are you getting good positioning? Are you getting good possession? Are you creating chances? Is a goal just on the cusp of coming? Because sometimes people will just drastically change their tactic around when they go 1-0 down, and it will cost them. The other side of this is, though, when you go 1-0 up in a very tight game and you think, well, I'm leading the game right now, I'm gonna see how it plays out and leave it. I actually think that's a big mistake. Sometimes, and what I have been doing recently in my Twitch saves during playing these games, is I've been tinkering the tactics around about the 60th, the 70th, the 80th minute, depending on the situation, to suit how I think I want to see the game out. And I'm going to show you an example. So if we take a look at my tactic here, it's a simple 4-3-3, and in possession, the intensity of the tactic is rather high. Sometimes when I go 3-0 up, I will look to lower that intensity. I will bring the tempo down, maybe even do a little bit of this and take all of this off and bring this intensity down, especially slow the pace down here to make sure that my team is not being rushed off their feet throughout the whole game. We know how important now stamina and natural fitness is. This can be a big factor in this. If you're 3-0 up, why are you still trying to batter a team when you could just see the game out and your players would be fairly well rested before the next game? Taking things off like counter press, if you're like 3 or 4-0 up, reducing this down, it's not going to make that much of a difference in the game. If you concede 1 goal and you don't keep a clean sheet, but you still win 4-1, what difference does it really make? And I don't think it's cost me once yet in a game doing that. However, there are some changes I would make if it is a very tight game and you're only 1-0 up. The obvious things, such as time wasting, obviously can be utilised quite well. Other things, I think, being more disciplined. Being more disciplined in your situation on the pitch. You can also change this by selecting, say for instance, I've got a fullback here on attack, changing that to defense. I know it's obvious, but sometimes people just forget these little simple things which can make a big difference. If you have a lot of positions where the roles are on attack and you're holding out a 1-0 lead, the players are still being told to go on attack. They're looking for a second every single time. Whereas changing these round to a defensive position means that they're less likely to go forward. They're less likely to be caught on the break. You're less likely to drop some points, some silly points, just by conceding late. The third mistake that people seem to make a lot of the time now, especially in this game, because it means a lot more, is spending all of your transfer money before that deadline day window. We now know how important the deadline day is. I don't think Football Manager made such a big deal out of it, when really, I think it's probably their best new feature that they've added into the game. We've all seen a deadline day now, probably. We are like 3 or 4 weeks into the game. They are fantastic. The whole screen changes yellow. It gives you a different atmosphere. It gives you an idea of the players that attract an interest. And of course, you get the best part about it. You get agents offering you players that were never available before, just putting the feelers out to see if you would like to buy their players. Some of these players, if you try going for them the week before, even the day before, would never be available. Maybe the club would not let them go. However, this time round, just during the deadline day, you have that option to buy them. So spending all of your money before that final day could, 1, cost you a lot more on the positions that you're looking for. Maybe 2, you're going to miss out on one of these players because you spent it on somebody who's half as good. Or 3, you're getting better options for your money. Maybe you're getting more of a squad. You're spending less. You're bringing in more for your money. There are so many more beneficial factors that come into play when the deadline day option is there for you. So always leaving your money. Don't do this. I spent all of my transfer budget for the whole season. I guess it's not too bad because we're in December, but I did leave some until that deadline day to try and make some signings. And I just looked, and I didn't even make any on deadline day. I fell for my own mistake. Now, the 4th mistake on this, again, we'll go back to tactics, and that is overcomplicating these tactics. Now, I was definitely somebody who used to do that before, and I've learned the hard way that overcomplicating tactics has massively put me at a disadvantage, especially in PvP when I'm playing in these draft tournaments, which I absolutely suck at. They have definitely not helped me one bit. And let me explain to you a little bit more what I've learned. Now, I used to get a lot of people who used to tell me that I used to have way too many instructions. And arguably, I have too many instructions loaded into this. I have play out defense, overlapping, run out defense, and be more expressive. To be honest, I could take these off. I used to always have like work ball into box, play for set pieces, everything selected, and it would just be absolute carnage, especially in transition as well. I'd have something selected here, definitely on out of possession. I'd more than likely have offside trap, using tight marking, and one of these selected. And it was just way too overcomplicated. And not to mention, I'd be giving the players individual instructions as well, which sometimes I do now, sometimes I don't, because sometimes I think you just have to let the player do what they do best naturally, instead of forcing them into something which could be detrimental to your tactic. For instance, a good tactician told me GYRFM. Of course, I've highlighted some of his tactics before in the past, and I will definitely do in the future as well, because they are great. Things like using tighter marking can sometimes drag your players out of position, and using ball playing defenders sometimes, and I've seen it for myself, they look to play long balls all the time, or they look to just be Frank Lampard and just try and smash a crossfield pass, and they're not good enough to do that, and you end up losing the ball. So I have been using the centre defender position role a lot more often, unless the defender that I am using is exceptionally good on the ball. Then that's when I will look into it. Other things such as your player roles. I know a lot of people have told me in the past, if you have like a Mazzala on attack and an inside forward, they might clash. However, sometimes these build great overloads, and it's kind of down to you to look at your tactic when you're using these tactics and see whether you're you're conceding goals because they are just jumping over each other's feet and they're getting clashed, or you're actually causing the opposition lots of trouble because there's more players in those positional areas to what defenders are. So you're actually attacking 2 against 1 each time, and you're getting the better out of that and creating a lot more chances. But my final mistake that people seem to make, and I still don't get why people do it, is they neglect the set pieces. It's one of the first things I do every single time I do a rebuild. I look at, right, who is my aerial threats? Because I need to center my attacking corners around that one guy. And let's see what I've done here. So if we take a look at the corners, if we go to attack, my right-sided defender is attacking that near post alongside my left-sided defender. Now, usually my right-sided defender is one Anel Ahmedhodzic, and he's only out right now because he's injured. He would normally be in that position, but he is 6'5" with 15 jump and reach, a decent high bravery, strength, and heading ability, all 14 or above, and he's 6'5". So he is going to be such a good aerial threat from these corners, and we can see he scored 1 goal in the league so far, but I'm sure there's a defender who scored a lot more. That being this guy, which, funny enough, he's 6'1", doesn't have that high of a jump and reach. Bravery's 13 and his heading's 11. However, he scored 4 goals in 9 league appearances, and that was only actually 5 starts. Playing at centre-back. I don't know why, most recently he's just been scoring so many goals from corners, and that is because I set up my corner routines well. It's probably the best thing that you can do if you want to get those extra goals, especially if you have somebody like I have in Carlos Vinicius. I have been attacking corners, especially with Carlos Vinicius at the start of the season as well, before I bought Anel Ahmedhodzic, and I wanted to make him the focal point. However, because he is in this roller going forward, we are near post. If one of my defenders at that near post misses it, he is usually there. Now, I also have an absolute gem who takes the corners. His name is Uriel Chelly. Now, he is absolutely fantastic at set pieces in general. Free kick taken of 15, corner kick taken of 16. I shouldn't have to tell you this, but make sure they're taking the corners. Make sure whoever's your best corner taker is whipping that ball in at that near post at your best header. It's so stupid to say it, but so many people neglect the set pieces, and if you change your tactic, that will reset the set pieces. Maybe this is probably the best thing that you can do, is save these routines. Save this near post that you can do. You could already see when I have a 5 at the back tactic, I have a 5 at the back corner. I also have a near post target forward. If I load that in right now, that is going to be a tactic where I have a very tall target forward, much like today, and we're attacking him straight away. 6'4" with 15 jump reach, 17 strength, 8 heading's not great, but still, he's going to bag them quite a few goals just because of how big he is. And there we have it. That is all of my mistakes that I think you should be aware of going forward in your Football Manager saves. Let me know if you have made any of these crucial mistakes in the past, or if there's any other mistakes that you think should have been on this list. And make sure you're subscribed to get us to 30,000 subscribers before Christmas, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.